Hey guys, it's Kurt from Wersi Club USA. After posting the last video that we talked about some MIDI conflicts you can run into on OAX, we had some great feedback from some folks. We read those, we read the manual, we read the comments again, and we thought, let's try something and see if this works. And sure enough, it does. Here's the back of the Wersi, MIDI 1 and MIDI 2. And the next picture is the back of the Keytron. Can you notice anything different? The really big difference is we have two MIDI connections from our Sonic to our Keytron. So we're using both MIDI out 1 and MIDI out 2 to MIDI in GM 1, that's a MIDI in 1 I should say, on the Keytron side, and MIDI in 2, which they call Keyb or Keyb for keyboard. And we'll talk about that here in a second. Here is a quick example of a bunch of user sounds set up on the Sonic, and you notice I no longer care what MIDI channel they're on. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more. The most important part is it avoids the dreaded MIDI conflict. Now let's switch to a live shot of the organ and show you something that should make a lot of folks really happy. So we're on a factory setting right now, but let's, so notice again, remember the green circle is the sound we're working with. So we're on the upper manual selector number 1. Let's click sounds. Let's go to user sounds. And you see here, I just randomly pick some. There's no rhyme or reason why I picked these, I just did. So let's pick strings as an example. So now we've got cinema strings from the Keytron on upper 1. Here's where it gets a little more fun. Now, this is what we had a problem with in the past. If I wanted to use strings on the lower manual at the same time, I would have to duplicate that voice and make sure it was on a different channel. Now, let's show you what happens. We go to user sounds again, and we scroll down to cinema strings, and we hit enter. Ta-da! We have strings from the Keytron on upper manual 1, selector 1, lower manual, selector 1. Now, let's take a closer look at that. If I double click here, and I click on, well, routing's already clicked, notice we've got SYS, and we've talked about this a number of times, over the past year when looking at connecting up different MIDI things to our Sonic. So that says that OAX is picking a channel for us. And notice in this case it took MIDI channel 1. Also notice over here we've got bank 11. I'm going to call it bank 11. It's MSB 11, but we're just going to call it 11, and patch 48. So that's how we picked the strings. How do we know those numbers? Remember in one of the earlier videos, we showed you a screenshot of the technical data sheet from the SD40 where they give you all of those numbers that you need to access the sounds remotely via MIDI versus actually touching the screen on the SD40 itself. But I got away from the topic a little bit. Let's look at this again. So remember, this is what you want to pay attention to. On upper manual 1, cinema strings is on system, dynamically assigned MIDI channel 1 via the system, as in OAX. Let's go back. Now we're going to pick on this guy, which is the exact same sound, okay? But notice this time OAX picked MIDI channel 5 for us. Notice it's still the same bank or MSB and the same program value. So how did that happen? So let's go create a new sound just so you can see how that works. So let's go back again. All right, so I'm going to go up to the upper manual again, and I'm going to click sounds, and we're going to go up to the top. So we've got all of our sounds we want on MIDI port 1 or out 1 on the organ, going to in 1 on the Keytron. Anything special, which really the only thing that's special is channel 2, and again, that's a default on the Keytron, so that you can play chords on your lower keyboard and change, the harmonies or the chords that play in styles on the Keytron. And again, this one down here, we haven't really talked about that much, but we're going to come back and show you a different way that you can select registrations on the Keytron, which is kind of like a preset on the Keytron side. But anyway, so those are both on MIDI port 2. I didn't say that. And notice I named them that way for my own, again, to keep my head straight while I was working through this. So we're creating a brand new sound. We want that again. Remember, all sounds are on port 1. So let's go ahead and click that. And it gives you a default setting. Okay, let's double click that. Let's click Edits. So it's on MIDI channel 1. Let's scroll down to say System Assigned. You can't really pick the number. It'll pick that for you. So you want System Assigned Sound. Let's go to Bank 0, which is default. And I don't know what sound this one is, honestly. I'm just going to pick 10 just so we can see it. And we're going to uncheck Edit. It's going to say, would you like to save it? We're going to say yes. We're going to say rename it, and we're going to say Video Demo. Okay, just so you guys can see what's happening. And we hit Enter, and we click Save. And now we back out of this screen, and sure enough, Video Demo is on the upper keyboard, okay? Now, let's go down here to the lower keyboard. Let's click Sounds, and there's that sound we just created called Video Demo. Let's hit Enter. And sure enough, we were able to pick it, and we didn't get any MIDI conflicts. Let's go up here, double click. Notice it went to System Assigned MIDI Channel 1. Let's go to the lower. And look, it went to System MIDI Channel 5 again, and that's kind of expected because by default, lower is on Channel 5. But let's do something else. Let's go ahead and drag over a sound pool, an empty sound, I should say. Let's click Sounds. Let's click User. Let's click User. Let's scroll down and click Video Demo again. And now, when we click this guy, look, he's on MIDI channel 2. So now we've got this sound, the same sound that we just created, which is going to place a voice number 10, actually voice number 9, in the Keytron, which off the top of my head, I don't know what that is. I'd have to go look that up in the data sheet. So that's why we just called it Video Demo. But now we've got that same sound. It's on MIDI channel 2. Over here, it's on MIDI channel 1, and over here, it's on MIDI channel 5. So now we could actually play that same sound in multiple locations if that's what we wanted to do. So let me run downstairs now, and I will demonstrate that I'm able to play and control all of these things directly from the organ, and I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to set up the camera so you can see that I don't really touch the Keytron except to start a style and or change a break or a fill. And for folks that are scratching their heads about that, we've got a solution that we're going to test out. It should be here on Wednesday, at least that's what the UPS tracking numbers tell me. So maybe later in the week we're going to show you a way that you can make it more convenient to hit fill and break and intro and ending and all of those things to control styles in the Keytron, because we have not found a way to send that data out of OAX so far. Hang on a second, we'll switch to a different shot downstairs. All right, I tried my best to get a shot that would show the Keytron, which is sitting on the left side of my organ bench right now. I'm currently shopping for some kind of a stand so it sits off over here where it's a little bit easier to see, and actually then it would show up in these shots. So I'm trying to focus as best I can, and I'm not even sure how good you can see this, but we've got the main OAX screen here, and down here in the bottom left or bottom right we got a video or audio recorder running. So that's going to be the sounds that you hear outside of my voice. So I'm going to hit user, and I'm going to have to move this around probably a little bit so I can see things. I'm going to hit Keytron Vibes, which is now here on upper 1. And sure enough, we got a vibe sound. How about that? Let's go to user again. I'm going to touch this, which says hold on, which means that screen will stay there. So now I'm going to hit flute. How about a tenor sax? Okay. Maybe a trumpet sound? Guitar? How about electric piano? All right, so again, what you're seeing me do here is touch user sounds set up on the Sonic that send to the Keytron via MIDI output 1 to MIDI in 1 on the Keytron, the appropriate program and patch information to pick sounds. Here we go. How about an organ? Different organ. Vibes again. And I think if I scroll over, what else we got? Nothing. Okay, how about maybe flute? Did we show you that one? Yeah, I think we did. All right, let's go to our strings, because that's the one that I showed you earlier. So I'm going to put strings here. Let's back out. And again, if you can't see it very good in the video, I've got cinema strings up there. I'm going to click on the lower manual. I'm going to hit user again. And we're going to scroll down and we're going to find cinema strings again. We're going to back out. Oops, back out. So now we've got, just like we showed you earlier, strings on the lower. And on the upper. So again, remember our whole exercise here was to avoid that dreaded MIDI conflict. And we've been able to do that by letting OAX pick the MIDI channel it wants to use. And because we're using the MIDI in 1 on the Keytron, it's randomly just, it doesn't really care. It just says, I'm going to play on 16 MIDI channels, whatever information you send me, I'm going to play that. Now, let's go to the next step. And let me pick user, oh, I'm sorry, let me drag over a sound, an empty sound, okay? And we'll hit the user button again, and we're going to hit favorite. I hope it's in here. It may not be. Where is it? Ah, here it is. Okay, port 2, channel 2 styles is what I called it. Now, that says it's going on a different MIDI cable, different MIDI interface. So now we're coming out of the organ on port 2 to in 2 on the Keytron. And again, we're using MIDI channel 2 because that's the default. You can change it on the Keytron if you want to, but who cares? We're just using that one. And that one now will let us control styles. So I'm going to go over here to the Keytron, which you can't see. And I just have a random style here picked. I'm going to hit start. Okay, so you just hear drums at that part because I did not trigger a chord yet, but let's just play a regular C major chord. And sure enough, we have that. I'm going to turn off our strings for a second. Okay. So let's go ahead and turn on strings. So now it's going to be playing strings from the Keytron on lower 1 and on MIDI channel 2, port 2. That's the important part, port 2. it's going to be playing the chord changes for us. How about that? All right, so let's go back up to upper 1. And I don't know, let's pick E piano. Strings are a little loud, let's turn them down. So hopefully, for those that are thinking about adding a keytron, this is probably the solution that you're going to like the most and make it easiest to use, and that you can control it pretty much from the organ. Like I said, the only thing that we don't have quite worked out yet is a way to control, and I don't know if you can even see him over here in that shot, but on the left-hand cheek block, there's intros and endings and fills and all those things. There's buttons on the organ to control the styles in the organ. In a perfect world, we would be able to push those buttons and control the keytron. But to the best of my knowledge, there's no way that Wersi sends that information out. I mean, if they do, or if someone knows how to do that, let us know, and we will certainly figure that out and see if we can't make that work. But so far, that doesn't seem to work. So we are stuck with pushing physical buttons on the keytron. And as I mentioned earlier, we have something coming in this week that I think is going to help with that. If it fits, and again, I'm not sure if you can see it over where my hand's moving, but to the left of these preset buttons here, hopefully it's going to fit in here. It may not, it may be a little bit too big, I'm not sure. But we'll see, that's one option, and that would allow us to push the buttons from right here. We'll see how that goes once we get it. Anyway, thanks for watching.